And welcome back to Interesting Talks with Footprints Counselling Service. I hope that you enjoyed your holidays and ready to kickstart the new year with a lot of positive energy. This evening's talk is on difficult conversations and how we can best navigate them. It's a part of life, and the better we can get at them, then I think it's good for both parties concerned. So even before you start to discuss your views or opinions, it may be a good idea to take some deep breaths and exhale slowly. This will go a long way to helping you stay calm. Have you ever felt anxious about an upcoming talk or one of those that the outcome you can't predict? Or one that makes you feel edgy and jittery all day, unable to focus on other things? Maybe you're planning to talk through something difficult with somebody important, or perhaps the status of your relationship, or a reaction to a betrayal, or your apology for breaking a promise. You have to tell a parent you won't be able to visit them when they want you to. You need to ask your partner to change the way they've been treating you. Or perhaps it's much more mundane. Your child got into a fight at school and you need to talk to them to help them to understand what went wrong. But either way, you need to communicate. So no matter the purpose of the upcoming big talk, some things don't change. And some communication strategies can almost always help. The first one, have a goal in mind. Try to identify what you're hoping to achieve before you begin. Perhaps you'd like to ask yourself, what is it that you want to get out of this situation? Or maybe you intend to ask your boss for, to back off a bit, to stop intruding into your private life. Be clear and specific in your own mind about what you want to accomplish. Don't just go into the conversation with a vague negative feeling and the intention to let it out. And when you begin to talk, don't just complain about the problem you've noticed, suggest solutions too. Use non-blaming communication styles. A great template for this is the type of phrasing you would use, as in, you do X, I feel Y. In other words, simply explain to the other person that your feelings follow their actions, not that they are deliberately causing you to feel low or that they are making you feel some particular way. Just present your feelings as an unintended consequence that you'd like to avoid, and asking for their help in avoiding them. To do this, you may need to take note of your own feelings before you have the conversation. Try to detect any antagonism or any eagerness to defend yourself. Be aware of feeling angry at the other person before you meet. Work out some ways to express your feelings in a neutral, non-blaming manner. Recognize that complex interpersonal problems have complex interpersonal causes. In other words, you need to acknowledge your own responsibility for some part of the conflict that you want to talk about, especially if this is what you're asking the other person to do. Be clear about the fact that such issues are never exclusively the fault of one person or the other. Recognize that conflict was caused by interaction between the two of you, and thus is due at least part down to your own errors in judgment. So don't insult, don't provoke, and don't accuse. Be open about the problem, but do so without blaming the other person for it. I think these are key points here. Accept criticism if it's on topic. Acknowledge your mistakes before you go into the talk. Make a mental note of the list of things you're prepared to own up to. But don't limit yourself to the ones you can find yourself. There may be some you haven't noticed. If you want to work out a problem, don't assume the other person is the only one who needs to change. However, Don't be redirected into examination of your own thoughts either. Keep the conversation focused on the issue you brought up in the first place. And listen to the other person when they criticize you and tell them you will be happy to talk to them about that later after you've sorted out your original issue that you've brought to them. Otherwise, this could just turn into a full-blown argument where there is no resolution. Phrase requests towards the positive. This will be describe the changes you would like to make rather than simply complaining about the problem you've noticed. You'll be saying essentially the same thing, but in a way that goes down much more easily. Our relationship is in a terrible place these days. Contains effectively the same information as I want it to be easier for us to spend time together. But the latter is much less likely to make somebody else feel defensive. Another way to understand this point is to recognize that you are not the only one who will benefit from the changes requested or the solutions you've suggested. Try to think through and explain to the other person why this might be true. Don't feel the need for total victory. Sometimes you don't need the other person to agree with you. You may only need to get your opinion out there in a neutral, well-reasoned way so that they can hear you say it and can consider it later in the fullness of time. Even if they're defensive when you first bring it up, after all, if the other person becomes upset or takes your critique personally, perhaps their reaction provokes or proves, should I say, your point. The opposite is also true. If you criticized and in any way and it makes you angry and hurt, and your feelings might mean that there's some truth in what they're saying to you too. So don't expect an immediate behavior change or a full admission of guilt. You may have to accept being less right than you think you are. Don't forget to listen. This might be the most important communication strategy on the list. When you are open up for a difficult conversation, be aware that it might be or go in unexpected directions. Be sure to take some time out from trying to make your points so that you can really hear and understand the other person and what they're saying from their perspective. Use empathy and slow down and try to take their point of view. Catch yourself before you react defensively to anything you hear. This template is an extremely useful tool to get your points over to the other person, whilst giving them time to express their feelings and giving you time to see the results that could possibly come from what you was looking for in the first place. So I hope you enjoyed this talk and have found it useful. Do like and share. Leave comments wherever you see this talk. If you're on YouTube, do subscribe and hit that notification button. Until 2 weeks' time, do take care of yourself. Try to stay positive and bye for now.